Welcome to the Detroit Lions News Show, your number one source for Detroit Lions news. We are broadcasting live to the Detroit Lions News like page, Joe Cap's page. Thank you. Thank you very much. To my oldest, longest Detroit Lions Facebook group, only 1.6. Please subscribe. Please subscribe. And also to Build a Packer fans group, the NFC North, the Huddle. It's a very good group, very respectful. We are going to talk. We have a professional here. He does this full time. Everybody knows him. He writes for the RealGM, LionsWire. Jeff Risdon, guys. Let's give a big, thumbs up for Jeff. And we also have former Lion Mark Schmidt, played in the late '80s. Barry Sanders, all those guys. And my partner, he was here from the beginning. Chicken Nugget King, inspiring rapper. Let's go. We're going to hit the intro video, and then we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the Senior Bowl, and then at 7:15, we're going to talk about the Combine, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes had to say via Jeff. All right, enjoy the.
Do your best. Let's go. Lions on 3. 1, 2, 3. Lions.
Oh my God! Victory Sunday.
The Giants look at their schedule and they go, "Oh, the Detroit Lions," and they put the big W, right?
Correct. It's folks. It's everybody that is on the screen right now that is what makes this special, because this organization has been so bad for so long. Yet here we all are on a Sunday night at 7:00, chopping it up about this football team, because winning 3 in a row and getting this done for the first time since 2017, and like Mark said, having some momentum for this fan base.
When we played against the Patriots one game on Thanksgiving, I had a pretty good game too, and it was just the atmosphere is just different. It's just there's just everybody's ready. You get a chance to wear the throwback uniforms. It was just fun.
I think it's a mixture of both. I think you got to have a good program, but I think the city, the way it's viewed nationally, like the people in Detroit, the business people, the money makers, the marketers, they got to market Detroit different nationally.
And welcome to the Detroit Lions News Show. I am honored. I've been bugging Jeff to come on the show, but this guy works like 70 hours a week. So finally got him on, because it's a little bit of a slow period. He was at the Senior Bowl. He was at the Combine. Jeffrey, talk about it, please.
Yeah, it's been I appreciate you having me on. First of all, I'm glad we could finally make it work, because it's tough with the schedule that I got. I have 2 kids that are athletes, and their basketball seasons both ended this week, so I finally have a little bit of free time, which is kind of nice. Going to the Combine, was there last week. That was my 16th Combine. I've been to 14 of the last 16 Senior Bowls, so I get around a little bit.
And Mark, what's the latest with the NFLPA news and everything like that?
I'm doing some things up here in Buffalo. One of the things that we're working on now, which is it hasn't really come out a whole lot lately, but we're going to start pushing real hard for to get rid of artificial turf in the NFL. That's the thing that we're most concerned about right now. We've done a lot of things with, obviously with the head injuries and limiting a lot of that. And even though the game is probably faster and rougher than it's ever been in certain ways, but with the rules, but the artificial turf has got to go. It's got to go. It makes no sense to still be playing on that after this many years. So that's the main thing that we're working on right now. And among other things, and some things, with the retired players that I'll get into in a little bit, but and I'm just staying busy with that and enjoying some retirement. I watched a little bit of the Combine, and I played in the Blue Gray Classic, and we'll talk about how much it's changed now since I was around.
Chicken Nugget King, what's going on, my brother? You've been here since the beginning.
Just been busy, making moves and stuff like that. Just been busy overall. But Jeff, I have a real cool question to ask you. Like, this is just straight off from the hip. knowing Brad Holmes and, how the past two drafts were and the past two free agency, moves were, what's the game plan? Is he going to stay aggressive, neutral, or conservative with this free agency and draft? And if so, let me know on how that's going to be.
Yeah, we're all kind of wondering the answer to that. We don't really know because he gives a lot of different mixed signals. I would say it would be surprising if they're aggressive. Like, I don't think they're going after the top shelf free agents. They're going to stick to what's been working for them, and it has been working for them. So I think that's sort of the positive reinforcement loop that, shopping in the mid tier and bringing in a guy for, not your top tier, but like a guy who's going to be an average starter for you at a position where you need an average starter. That's kind of the range that they're going to be looking at in free agency. You're not going to be getting. Half the guys I can think of got tagged, but like they're not shopping for the Saquon Barkley's of the world. I know he got tagged, but like that's just not where they're at. They're going to be looking more for the Dearness Johnsons of the world in the running backs. At quarterback, they're not looking at Baker Mayfield. They may be looking at Cooper Rush. That type of caliber that sure seems to be the vibe on what's going on with free agency.
So you went to the Senior Bowl. It was like freezing out here when you probably took off, and you got down to the Reese's Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. How was the temperature, and how did you? What was the first day? What was Wednesday? Talk about that.
Yeah, so the first day I actually got sunburned. It was 68 and not a cloud in the sky, and it was
nice,
fantastic.
lucky dog.
Yeah, my kids had snow days Thursday and Friday that week, so they were a little jealous of that, but. Yeah, it was fun. It was a good crop. It wasn't the best talent group at the Senior Bowl this year. There was a lot more like third, fourth, fifth rounders there than normal. Like normally you have probably a handful of first rounders and maybe half the second round. And I don't think that either of those was the case this year. I think there's probably one or two first rounders, maybe 10 of the second round. But then like the rest of the draft, like half of the rest of the draft was in Mobile. And we got to see a lot of that group of players, especially like offensive and defensive linemen, which is where the Lions are looking in that range. Like there was a lot of dudes down there that can compete and play right away. Tight ends too. I know nobody wants to draft a tight end, but
yeah,
the reality is they might.
So, Mark, you said you played in the East-West Shrine Bowl, didn't you not? Or
yeah,
explain what it is as a player. Like you played. Explain
right.
Exactly what your experience was.
Well, I think one of the things, the thing that's different now is that a lot of the players who normally would have played in the Blue-Gray Classic or the East-West Shrine game are in bowl games. And there's so many bowl games. I think when I was playing, I think there was maybe 12 or 14 bowl games. I mean, Jeff would maybe remember that. It's been a long time, but you get a lot of players in the East-West Shrine game and in the Blue-Gray Classic that played on winning teams in college and didn't go to bowl games at the time, and they were invited to that. If you weren't invited to the Senior Bowl, and Senior Bowl was really the marquee bowl. I did not play in that game. The Blue-Gray Classic was neat because it was played on Christmas Day, so you really nothing opposing it as far as viewership. So the Blue-Gray game was kind of cool. It was sponsored by the Lions Club, but these games have lost their tarnish, and because of so many bowl games that the players are still playing with their respective college teams. So, and Jeff can elaborate a little bit more on that and how it's changed in that respect. But from a player's point of view, you want to be invited to an all-star game. I played in a Big 30 all-star game coming out of New York and in Connecticut as well. So out of high school, so you want to play in an all-star game if you can in college as well. And back then, the Senior Bowl was the marquee, and then it was the Blue-Gray, and then it was the East-West Shrine game. And now it's basically just the Senior Bowl. Is as far as I know, as any other all-star games that I'm not aware of. For college, I'm not aware of them. But the Blue-Gray Classic, it was done, I think, in 2000. I can't even remember now, 2003 or 2004 when it ended. The East-West Shrine game, that's that's in Palo Alto, California, and that's and it's lost its luster too. But Jeff can elaborate on a little bit more of what I'm saying, I guess.
Yeah, the Shrine game, they made it the Shrine Bowl now, and it's been in Las Vegas for the last 2 years, and it runs at the same time as the Senior Bowl. It's not exactly the right time, but they've made it impossible. So, like, I used to go to both. When the Shrine game was in St. Petersburg, Florida, I would go every year. I would be there for a week, take a weekend in New Orleans to, do my thing, and then go to Mobile the following week. You can't do that anymore, and it's kind of frustrating. There are a couple of other games, the NFLPA collegiate game, that's kind of a lower rung. And then there's like the Tropical Bowl. There's the Hula Bowl is back. Mark, I'm sure you remember that from when we were younger.
Yeah.
There's a few of them that are out there. There's an HBCU Classic and an HBCU Combine that the Lions were well represented at this year in terms of scouting it. But yeah, the Senior Bowl is still the big one, and that's the one that everybody really wants to get to. And for scouting purposes, that's where the GMs are. That's where the head coaches, if they're going to one of these games, that's where they will be. This year, so like a year earlier, Dan Campbell's staff coached one of the squads there. They coached the North team. And actually Deuce Staley was the head coach, and Aaron Glenn ran, everybody got promoted up the line, and Campbell just sort of supervised. And that was really awesome to see. They didn't get to do that this year, so there wasn't a lot of representation for the Lions. Dan Campbell wasn't there. Brad Holmes wasn't there. But all the scouting people were there, including Dave Sears, who is no longer with the Lions. He's now he was the director of collegiate scouting. He's now in Arizona. That was probably the last time that any of us ever saw him representing the Lions.
Right. Chicken Nugget, do you have anything to add to that before we go?
Yeah, I think the HBCUs, I think those kind of college gates needs a lot of more opportunity. And the way Brad Holmes went out and got a kid that had an opportunity to showcase what he can do just goes to show that if he can make it, anybody can make it out the HBCUs. And James Houston played very well. I mean, 8 or 9 sacks in one season as a rookie. I mean, that's a heck of an impressive thing to do, And Mr. Risdon, I think that what I'm trying to say is I think that if we're going to keep guys coming in from the HBCUs, just like James Houston, I think we're going to bring in more of that to hire it up as the leverage goes. And I think he complements Aiden Hutchinson pretty well. So I think he's definitely going to do a lot of good things this season. And the HBCUs, they're hella talented, great talented, players coming out of that college. And also for the Senior Bowl, it's guys who really want to make it to the top, first rounders, and guys who want to be second rounders and make a statement for themselves. And sometimes it's hard to get out there and make that happen.
It is. And I say this as somebody who I briefly attended an HBCU for grad school at Virginia State Trojans, go Trojans. There's a ton of talent at the HBCU level, and they don't get necessarily the exposure or it's not like the top level coaching, but it's like they're the chance to develop and work at like the top places and play the top competition. And that generally gets held against them. And that is something that is changing. I'm happy to see that, and I'm happy to say that. And the Lions did actually sign a cornerback from North Carolina A&T, which is Brad Holmes' alma mater, earlier this offseason. Brian Mills. I don't know if he's going to make the team or not, but he's at least got a shot in there. And again, he's to your point, Chicken Nugget, man. They're giving opportunities to it. They're turning over those rocks to see where they can find talent.
Nice. Mark, do you have anything to add before we go to the combine?
No, I'd like to get to the combine. If I mean, Jeff, you were there, right? I
was.
How did you compare? What did you compare this year to past years? Just in an overall talent perspective.
I positionally there are really good. I think this is a great year to need a tight end. It's a great year to need a running back, but might be the best running back class ever from top to bottom. There are so many good players. But if you're it's a good quarterback class. I like this quarterback class. I know that makes me kind of weird, but on the flip side, if you need a pass rusher, not a great year for that. If you need a wide receiver, not a great, you're not going to find you're not finding Jamar Chase. You're not finding Calvin Johnson in this class. You're going to find a lot of dudes that are like the Marvin Joneses of the world. That are, that's good players, people that can compete and be a good part of your team, but not necessarily like your alpha dog dudes. That's, and this, the thing that stands out to me, Mark, is that the players are more prepared for the combine, and it gets that way every year. The answers are more polished. The workouts are that much better because they're training for it at places like Exos and Pro Performance. And a lot of the dudes skip their bowl games now so they can do those things to get ready and get their bodies into fine shape and get them into track shape so they can run real fast and move around really well. It shows that there's a big circuit out there of professional training to get specifically ready for the combine and the pro day workouts that are coming up. And that you can't avoid that, man. It's very easy to see.
Nice. So let's talk about quarterbacks. In your perspective as a professional, Jeff, who do you got top 5 quarterbacks? And to piggyback off that, what are you going to do at 6? Because I'm that guy that's not really sold on Jared Goff.
So I want to say that I'm with you, but I do believe in Goff, at least for 2023. Like, I'm good. I want him to start. I want him to be the leader that he was. I do want him to prove it. I gotta see him prove it again for another year before I want to give him any more money and commit longer. But he's earned that. For the quarterbacks, my number 1 is CJ Stroud, and it's not particularly close either. I think he is so good at his ball placement, his timing, his accuracy, his willingness to let his receivers make a play. He's a guy that he's gonna, if the ball needs to be, exactly when and where it is, he's better at that than any quarterback in this draft. He's better than that than any quarterback in a while. He's got that just pinpoint timing and accuracy. He's got the confidence. He shows the confidence. I like him a lot. I know he didn't run a lot. He actually apologized for not running more at Ohio State. And that's kind of a thing, like the Buckeye coaches don't really want him to do it either. They didn't want Justin Fields to do it either. Look at what Justin Fields can do with his legs. So I wouldn't hold that too much against him. And if you saw the way he played against Georgia, that was very, very impressive. And he's got a whole lot of that film. So I'm a big fan there.
Chicken nugget.
Next guy,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, man.
I think CJ Stroud has a lot of potential. He definitely has some potential coming out of Ohio State. And I think that when you're in the pros, you got to bring it, man. They're expecting you to bring it. You're not in the college game no more because it's a lot different than the college game. In the college game, you want to show out. But when you come to the NFL, you got to bring it so you can learn the playbook and learn, the system and learn the scheme and learn the coaches from top to bottom. So that way you can help yourself going along the way. And Stroud has talent, it's just that he needs the franchise that can believe in him, because there's other quarterbacks out there in this draft that have surely performed pretty well with different colleges. It's just that CJ Stroud is one of those guys that people are putting their eyes on. Do we need to go for a quarterback at 6? Maybe, but I think that later down the road, maybe in the later rounds, we just might take one. CJ Stroud at 6 is just questionable to me.
Mark? I would take him. I will say he would be the only quarterback I would take at 6 in this draft.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
What about Bryce Young then? What are your thoughts on Bryce Young since we have you here?
So Bryce Young to me is historically small for the position. And I also think that he benefited a lot from being in Alabama. It's one of those deals where, like, if he went to Indiana or Oregon State, like, nobody would consider him a first-round pick. It's because he played at Alabama and because he had a tremendous supporting cast. And I know it wasn't Alabama's best supporting cast. But the other thing, a lot of people point to, like, oh, look at the great plays that he made against Tennessee and LSU at the end of the games. And those were awesome. Why did he have to make those great plays at the end of the game? Because he wasn't very good in the rest of the game. And I think people overlooked that. That Tennessee game, the only reason Tennessee was in that game was because Bryce Young was not good that day. And you never hear anybody talk about that. Like, there are some warts to his game, aside from the fact that he is historically small. Like, I'm not going to be taking a risk on that. Would it surprise me if he's great in the NFL? Absolutely not. I think he's got a chance to be great. Like, he can be every bit as good as Stroud, if not better. But the odds are historically saying that he's not. And I'm not willing to take that risk, not when I can do other things with that pick that will help my team more around Jared Goff. So that's where I'm at with Young. Anthony Richardson, I'll hit him in real quick from Florida because he got a lot of buzz last week. He's quite literally the most athletic quarterback ever to hit the NFL. He had the best combination of speed, strength, size, agility, his exit velocity on his throws, and his downfield RPMs on the throws were the best ever. That's really tough to overlook. Now, you do have to look at his games at Florida. Like, if you watch the Utah game, you're like, that guy's a number one pick. Like, that guy, that's a better version of Jalen Hurts right there. That's a better version of Cam Newton right there.
Wow.
You watch, like, Kentucky and Mississippi, and you're like, oh, maybe not. That guy's not very good. So the one thing I'll say about him, people dog his accuracy. He's a 19, he turned 20-year-old starter in the SEC in his first year.
Yeah.
In that time, he had a better completion percentage and better touchdown to interception ratio than Matthew Stafford did in the exact same circumstance. And if y'all don't think that Matthew Stafford got better in time, and you don't think that Anthony Richardson will get better in time, you're fooling yourself. It might not be great, but that guy has ridiculously high potential. And I don't think he's going to last a 6. He might not last a 2. That's how buzzy it is. So that I don't want to talk too much about him because I don't think there's any chance in the world that he's falling to the Lions.
No,
okay, what about sorry. Mark,
I don't think so. I'm just wondering why we didn't hear more about Richardson during the season. I know Florida did not have a great year, but we just didn't really hear this buzz on Richardson. Really didn't start until the last 4 to 6 weeks. He was known as a good player at Florida, and then I saw the highlight reel on him, and it was pretty outstanding. It really was. But during the season, we just didn't really see or hear a ton about the guy. Not to be what he's going to be, a 3 or 4 pick, or maybe even better than that. So no, this hype has all kind of started in the last little bit. And, but I don't think Detroit goes for him. I think Detroit needs help on defense. You're talking about an offense that finished in the, what were you, top 5 or 6 offenses in the league. And you've got, Goff playing really well. He did get the Rams to the Super Bowl. I've only said that a half a dozen times on this program before. And, he's gotten hot at the right time at the end of the season there. And, you got to ride with that too. You got to ride with guys a little bit, and they need help on defense. The reason why the team came out 1-6 is largely because of the defensive situation. And that's where they're going to need their help. That's just what I think. And Richardson's a nice, look at, but you're not gonna take him even if he was available at 6. I still don't think you take him.
So the last quarterback on the list is Levis. So do you have anything on them? And we'll just go to the next.
I'll just say he's not the next on my list. I like Hendon Hooker a lot better than I like Will Levis. Will Levis, he ended at Kentucky. Before that, he was at Penn State and he got beat out by Sean Clifford. Yep. If you've watched Sean Clifford play, that's not a good thing for your resume. There's just too much that goes on with Levis. He's too volatile. Much like Richardson, he's going to have games that look great. He also has games where he looks really bad, and his bad is worse than Richardson's bad. And the upside just isn't there. He's a good athlete, but he's not that caliber of an athlete. So I'm out on him. I actually kind of hope that a situation arises where Stroud, Young, and Richardson are off the board at 6, and Levis is like the last of that group that's available, and somebody wants to trade up, and the Lions can trade back and get an extra pick or 2 out of it. That's my ideal situation. But I like Hendon Hooker. I think Hendon Hooker, if he was healthy, would be regarded better by most people than Levis. But he's not, and he's also 25. Probably going to miss the coming season because he's got a torn ACL. Although I saw him in Mobile and he was walking with a big thing on his leg, like the rehab sleeves. Mm-hmm. In Indy, he didn't have that on. He was walking without a limp, not super fast, but he's already working out and getting prepared to go through it. So his timeline is very similar to what James Mitchell's was last year. He tore the knee in December. Will probably be back to close to full speed and ready to play probably November-ish. So you can maybe get him a little bit of action at the end of the season. Hopefully the Lions are, 12-4 going into week 17, and the Vikings and the Packers are both 8-win teams, and you can start him and see what you got. But that's the guy you take in the second or early third round if you're Detroit.
Chicken, before we go on to the edge rushers, do you have anything to add to the quarterbacks? Okay, let's go to the edge rushers. Who's your number one edge rusher, bud?
Oh, Will Anderson is very good. Very talented guy. I got a chance to stand in front of his podium at the Combine. Really engaging interview. He gets it. You know, you can just tell like some guys like get it. He really got it. And I appreciated that. There are holes in his production that are a little difficult to explain, but he's very talented young man. So he's a pretty easy number one there. I don't love, but I like Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech. He's a long guy. He's built like J.J. Watt. I lived in Houston when Watt came up. I covered the Texans for a while. There are some similarities to him. He's not nearly as twitchy as what J.J. Watt is, but he is a guy that can do power to speed pretty well. I honestly hope they don't take him at 6 because I don't think he's that kind of a player, but he's a very talented guy with some upside. Then you get to like, I'm not a Miles Murphy guy. I've seen him before. I don't know. He doesn't have a plan and never got a plan while playing at Clemson. And Clemson's had some pretty good dudes come out over the years, and he just never got better. And that concerns me a little bit that he was like a 5-star recruit that came in and played really well right away and never really did more than that. And those types of players worry the crap out of me because what if they peaked early? Jadeveon Clowney is a great example of it. Another guy that I covered in Houston. He was the same guy, you know, at the end of his sophomore season at South Carolina that he was 4 years later with the Texans, and Texans fans got tired of that real quick, and Texans coaches got tired of that real quick too. So I worry about players like that who like they just never really got better at anything in college. That's kind of the Miles Murphy story for me.
Well, no, Jeff. One of the things what do you think Detroit's going to do? What do you think they're going to do with their first pick? I mean, just in your gut.
Yeah, I think they're going to look at the cornerbacks, whether it's Christian Gonzalez or Devon Witherspoon. But I'll tell you what, man, there was a guy down there, Deontay Banks out of Maryland, that looks fantastic for the number 18 pick. And this was a guy, like, if you could embody kneecap biting in a sound bite, he did it in his podium interview. He's like, my favorite thing about my game is I like to physically impose my will on the receiver. I want to beat their ass. And I'm like, that. If Dan Campbell was standing here next to me, he'd like run the card up to the podium right now. And by the way, he's 6'2". He runs in the low 4.4s. He's long. He's got ball skills. He's got attitude. Doesn't always play the run all that well, but like you're not taking the cornerback for his run defense. That's what we got with Jeff Okudah. You're taking it because he can turn and run and fly and cover and have that island corner mentality. He's got that. So I kind of think that they might look at like I like Tyree Wilson. That's probably the only, like, maybe Jalen Carter, but that's nobody knows what's up with Jalen Carter. Like,
the thing is with I know, and it was a tragic situation, and what the young man was doing in that situation, coming off a second national title, like God only knows. But what are the legal ramifications? Or do they not know what the legal ramifications are right now for Carter?
Yeah, so he is charged with 2 misdemeanors that could result in him having up to 2 years, a minimum of 2 years in prison, a maximum of like 15. Nobody thinks that that's going to happen, but what we're wondering about is the judicial process going to be done before the draft? Because you can't draft a guy, like you can't draft him at all if there's a chance that he's going to be going away for 2 years. Like that's got to be resolved. So, like, one of the things that we talk about in, like, the draft circles is, like, when's this going to get done so we know where we can slot him? Because right now, like, if that court case is still open, he's going undrafted. There's not a team in the league that will touch him.
Wow.
But if he's cleared, he's a top 5 talent. Like, and that's tough to balance, man. I don't know what to do with that. Really.
Talk about the all or nothing round, huh?
Yeah, hey, Risdon, I gotta say, man, it's really so many ifs in that scenario, so many ifs. And Jalen Carter is a talented kid coming out of Georgia, talented kid. But when you look at a background like that, it's going to say something different to other teams. It's going to say red flag, red flag, red flag. And, over the course of that kind of time, I think these teams are going to wonder what if he can play or not. they're going to wonder about that. And if he
Yeah.
can't play, he can't play. You're going to go undrafted with those kind of things and that kind of mistake. And, you know, he's got to understand that, you know, you could lose a lot. Everything is at stake in the NFL. Everything, you know, especially with an upcoming draft. And there's other guys that's probably going to be going ahead of you in the top 5 and maybe the top 10. You're going to really just say, look, I need my P's and Q's, and I need to stick to my P's and Q's and stay out the way, or else trouble might follow around, you know?
Yeah.
So my question is for Mark. Like, you were going to be drafted and everything. I did stupid things like that. My dad owned 2 cabs, and when I was 14 years old, me and my cousin would take his cabs out and we'd go drag racing, and we did stupid things. Like, every one of us did stupid things with cars back then. Like, you can't blame them. Like, even Ndamukong Suh did something stupid after he was drafted with his first year with the Detroit Lions. I can't blame the kid. I know it's a tragic situation, but it sucks. Like, Mark, did you ever do anything stupid just before the draft?
No. As a matter of fact, I was living in a bubble. And that sounds funny, but it, you know, and it's kind of tongue in cheek, but it's kind of the truth. So, no, I put something on Facebook today about my March and April, and how we were all getting ready and prepared and so forth. And, no, to answer your question, no, everything that I did, every moment that I had was about staying out of trouble, avoiding problems, staying focused on what you're supposed to be doing. You know, and I had an agent. I already signed with an agent, and I signed with an older gentleman, great guy, 70-year-old Notre Dame graduate. After some of these young whippersnappers wanted to represent me, I had an older gentleman represent me. He was great. He was like a father figure. And, you know, I mean, to answer your question, no, I didn't put myself into any bad positions, and just avoided things at all costs until I got my name on that piece of paper.
Yeah. One quick thing on Carter and the Lions. This is a guy who left the scene of an accident where a teammate wound up dying. Does that sound like a guy that Dan Campbell is going to want and trust? Like that's obviously it's a panic decision, and you don't know, you know, we don't know the circumstances, but we do. He admitted that he left the scene, and then was advised to go back like an hour and a half later. That's the kind of decision. Like, do you want, you're leaving your brother behind like that? Like that's, I don't think that's going to sit very well with this particular regime. Just my thought on it. I don't know that, but that would be my thought. I would really wonder about that.
No, the standards. I mean, everybody read this. You know, the standards that he has set for this Lions team. I want to get the numbers correctly here, Jeff. He interviewed 37 possible draft picks and or free agents, and he said 4 of them had the competitiveness that he was looking for. Are my numbers right there?
Yeah, he said 30 to 35, but yeah, that's you're right on. I know who one of them is. Can I tell you who one of them is?
Yeah, no, I was hoping you knew all 4.
I know one for sure because he confirmed it. That was Keanu Benton, the defensive tackle from Wisconsin, who's like a
Wisconsin, yeah.
He's one of them, and it's not surprising because I stood in front of his podium and he said the word grit like 5 times. So like, yeah, I get that.
Hey, I think Cansey's going to be one of those guys you got to look at too. Let's not leave him out the picture. He's definitely one of the guys that Dan Campbell likes.
Yeah, his issue is that he's got the shortest arms of any defensive tackle ever. That's
ever. Okay, I'm going to blow you up on this one, and because these kids, the twins, are hometown heroes here. They played on my flag football team. I'm going to hang on here. I'm going to blow you up right here. All right. Jeff Risdon, what do you think about Chase and Sydney Brown? According to my best friend, he looked them in the eye when they were 15, and David Nethersall said, "You guys are going to the NFL." And after that, they said, "If we make it to the NFL, you're getting season tickets." So that means I get season tickets for both these guys. Or David does, but he's my best friend, so I hope to go. Your thoughts on Chase and Sydney Brown?
I like Sydney a lot. He's a great safety prospect. You know, muscular, downhill attack dog type of player. I'd love to see him in Detroit in the middle round. So he played with Kirby Joseph for a while. Kirby worked out pretty well. You know that's a well-coached defense. Illinois has their issues, but he's a really talented player. He tested pretty well. Chase, as a running back, I'm not as high on him as a running back, but he's certainly draftable. He's certainly a guy that can carve out a niche as like a like what I'm blanking on his name last year. Did for the Lions, the third guy in the line, and I can't blanking on his name. Good grief! But he can be like a rotational back who can come in, give you some speed. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can pass block. That's one of the things that I noticed about him. He's a really good pass protector. He's a guy that's going to come in and give you solid reps. He can probably play special. Both of them can play special teams. And one of the things that stood out, I stood in front of Sydney's podium, talked about they were figure skaters when they were kids. Like that's a pretty cool path to the NFL.
Right on. I'm going to clip that for them. They'll appreciate that.
Cool.
Right on. Okay, let's look. Oh, you were at the Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes podium. Your thoughts on, because we're going to wrap this up real quick. We're almost at the 45-minute mark. What are your thoughts on, it goes by fast when you're talking, something you love. You must love your job. Like you have the dream job as far as I'm concerned. But what are your thoughts on when they were at the podium and talk about what's going to happen with free agency, your thoughts as a professional, and the draft?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think that free agency, you're going to see a lot of lower level stuff and not a tremendous amount of activity. I think they are going to bring some of their own guys back. I don't think Evan Brown will be back. I don't think Anzalone will be back. I don't think DJ Chark has a chance to be back. Will Harris is kind of a 50-50 one. John Kaminsky, we'll see. I would love for Kaminsky to come back. He's a guy who's from Northeast Ohio, which is where I'm from. And I would love to make that happen again. I thought he was great, but I do worry that he's going to get more money elsewhere. It's just the facts of life. Yeah. Draft, honestly, they have their 4 draft slots right now. I will be surprised if they don't trade at least one of those picks. And which way do they go? I don't know, man. I could tell you I know, but I'd be lying. I do think that they're going to be active in trading. And one of the things that's interesting is I think they can trade that number 18 pick and trade back and get a first-round pick next year, and maybe keep that draft capital flowing where they've got those multiple first-rounders so they have some flexibility going ahead. That's kind of what John Dorsey likes to do when he was a GM with the Chiefs and the Browns. It's not out of character for what the Rams do. They actually do the opposite. They spend their first-round picks ahead of time. But that sort of thing would not surprise me at all. I do think that they're going to go offense earlier than a lot of fans expect too. I don't think they're going there at 6 unless it's a quarterback and it's got to be the right quarterback, but offensive lineman is not out of the picture at 18 or either of the second round picks. They could take a wide receiver probably in the middle rounds. A running back is certainly, if they could get Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama, I'd be super happy. I love that guy. Yeah. They're gonna look at tight ends, but I think you're looking at like day 3 guys like Payne Durham or Tucker Croft, guys like that ilk. And I will say, I don't think they're drafting a kicker. I don't think that they prioritize long field goals. Dan Campbell doesn't like kicking long field goals, so I don't think that they're going to be too upset. Badgley will be back. I would firmly expect him to be signed, but he's going to have competition from somewhere. Don't know where yet, but we'll see. But that's my basic nutshell look at from above at what I think is going to happen in the next few weeks.
So what the free agents that we have, Scott Daly is a free agent, DJ Chark, Jamal Williams, and Brock Wright are your main ones. What are you going to do with Romeo Okwara too? Are we going to keep him or restructure him, or what do you think?
So they can't, especially if they bring in a guy in the draft who's going to play that position, they can't keep Charles Harris, Romeo Okwara, Julian Okwara, and Josh Paschal, who the team absolutely loves. And one of the things I stressed it when I've been on a couple other things, they see Josh Paschal as a 10-sack guy next year. Wow. They absolutely believe that. They think he is your starting closed end, and Aiden is on the other side. And then James Houston is in there too. So there's just not enough room for all those bodies. Harris and Okwara, Romeo specifically, are both really expensive to keep if they're not going to be full-time players. So one or both of them would probably have to go if you're taking a guy like Tyree Wilson or Miles Murphy or Lucas Van Ness, who I really hope they don't take because I don't think he can play.
Hey, I could piggyback off that and agree as well. But, with Josh Pascal had some games where he was going to come in and take over and, do what he got to do. He has played exceptionally well with that Jaguars game. If you recently remember, he played pretty well. He played pretty efficient. And I think he could be a 10-sack guy too, only if he just takes his time and, let the game come to him and don't come to the game. Just let the game come to him and let the game play along with him and let him be the way he has to be. Tyree Wilson, Miles Murphy, those guys are some top tier names that you could look at in this draft. And defense is very important. Defense is really needed in this team. And, you got guys like Malcolm Rodriguez, you got guys like Derek Barnes, you got guys like that who could really learn and keep playing and keep growing as the season goes. So I think Miles Murphy would be a nice pick, nice selection. But other than that, we only got 6 and 18 and other picks that we got to look at too. So, it's going to be a good draft. And I heard that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson maybe, in the works, in the looms for us in the secondary. So, that'd be nice. Anything's possible for us.
I'd take that. He's good. That would fill that slot nickel corner role, and they need to do that. I like Brian Branch out of Alabama in the draft for that role. Keitrell Clark from Louisville a little bit later on can fill that role too. There's guys that are out there if they don't get it in free agency, but yeah, they got to address those roles. They've got to get more consistent and better depth of talent on defense for sure.
I think Branch is going to be a steal. I'm going to say it off the rip. I think he's going to be a steal. Brian Branch got it. He has it factor.
I agree, man. I'm with you.
Mark, do you have anything to add before we finish it off, or do you?
No,
Jeff?
I think it's going to be interesting to see with 6 and 18. I mean, my opinion is they're going defense with both, and it's interesting what Jeff said. He said they're going to go, offense earlier than most people would expect. That could be true. I mean, he obviously knows what he's talking about. But I think with the 2 first-round picks, I don't think you're going to see any offensive players selected. Maybe later on, second round, third round, but I just don't see it. And taking a quarterback at all, I would be kind of surprised if they took one. I mean, they're taking it as a backup situation, but this is got to be a defensively laden draft, and that's why I think that's the direction I think it's going in.
So we have some comments here. Let's go. Hello, all. Let's go.
Hello.
They shouldn't. Let's not do that. And sorry, guys. Usually, it's a live interactive show, so they were supposed to ask the
live interactive.
The Riz. Is that your nickname, the Riz? The Riz.
Yeah. So if you're familiar with the Huge Show, I'm on there a lot. I've even been guest host solo a few times, and he has bequeathed that nickname on me. It works. It's good. Thanks, Huge.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add before we close it off? Any of you guys?
Hey,
Mark, I want to talk to you sometime about NFLPA stuff and what you're doing with that, because that kind of stuff fascinates me. We'll have to connect off the air and do that, because
absolutely,
you can certainly help me out on some things there and point me in some
absolutely.
directions.
Well, I think one of the reasons, real quickly here, I think the reason why the NFLPA has become so big, and I'll say this right on the air, is because the NFL alumni really wasn't. And that's really the sentiment. If you know anything about the game, you'll hear some of the frustrations about the NFL alumni. Now, the NFL alumni, of course, has the NFL logo on it, and the PA doesn't, but that's about as far as it goes. The NFLPA is something that I've enjoyed getting involved with, and it can really make a difference, because the guys that are running it and and the league itself really cares. So I got to believe that. And I'm not going to say anything else about the NFL alumni, because I might get in trouble.
Hey, Jeff, I definitely would like to keep in touch with you, man, so we could talk sports. I'm a big sports fanatic, And, I'm a Lions fan, and I would love to, get, pointers from you and work with you, and see how far we can go, because
sure,
I definitely would like to work with you, sir.
Yeah, keep hitting me up. I know basketball very well. Both my kids play. If you're looking over my shoulder, I'm a massive Cleveland Cavaliers fan. That's my other team, my other sports passion in life. So if you're into basketball, I'd watch a ton of basketball.
Same thing. I'm into basketball too. I'll definitely get a hold of you, Jeff. I mean, you can get a hold of me off here too. I'll definitely. I don't know how to.
He's Facebook
I don't know how to
friends
reach,
with me
but
and Mark. I think is he
No,
Facebook
yeah,
friends with
absolutely.
Yeah. On the book too. Definitely on the book as well. So I'll definitely keep in touch with you, Jeff.
Thanks, man. Good.
And there you have it with the Detroit Lions News Show, where we get the #1 news source for the Detroit Lions news. Thank you, Jeff, for coming on. Thank you, Mark. And thank you, Chicken Nugget Joseph Jones. One pride. Let's go, baby. One go. Let's go.
Do your best. Let's go. Lions on 3. 1, 2, 3. Lions.
Oh my God, Victory Sunday. The Giants look at their schedule and they go, oh, the Detroit Lions, and they put the big W, right?
Correct. It's folks, it's everybody that is on the screen right now that is what makes this special, because this organization has been so bad for so long, yet here we all are on a Sunday night at 7 o'clock chopping it up about this football team, because winning 3 in a row and getting this done for the first time since 2017, and like Mark said, having some momentum for this fan base.
Remember when we played against the Patriots one game on Thanksgiving? I had a pretty good game too, and it was just the atmosphere is just different. It's just there is just everybody's ready. You get a chance to wear the throwback uniforms. It was just.
I think it's a mixture of both. I think you got to have a good program, but I think the city, the way it's viewed nationally, like the people in Detroit, the business people, the money makers, the marketers,